I'm Caroline Cahill with Marijuana Industry News, and I am here with Steef Fleur, who is with the Green Gold Stories, and she is also a photographer. Hi.
Hi.
Thank you for joining us today.
Thank you for having me today.
You're very welcome. So if you could tell me about your project.
Well, I'm a freelance photographer, and I started doing photography in cannabis 2 years ago, 2014, when I visited Humboldt, which was an incredible world for me and gave me a completely new insight on cannabis. Because although I grew up in Amsterdam, to me cannabis was just a drug. And once I got there and I started doing more research, I started realizing that there was much more to it than just this drug that I had been growing up with. And I realized that if my vision on the cannabis plant was already so wrong, then the rest of the world must have been even worse than I. And I wanted to start a change. So I started up the project Green Gold Stories, and it's a photographic journalistic journey along people that are in some way, in a positive way, involved in cannabis industry. And we make portraits of them, we interview them, and those we publish on our website.
Okay. Now, is it a, so you publish them on your website, is it sort of, because you call it a story, is it you get a certain number of images together to tell a story?
Well, it's a platform actually where we publish interviews and portraits of people involved in cannabis industry. So, for example, a person that is making medicine and making a difference for their community will do a longer story, but we can also do just one portrait of the people, and hopefully these people will start sharing the projects, their stories as well, and sharing it amongst people that don't know so much about the plant. So hopefully we'll reach out to them and actually make a difference in the imagery of cannabis today.
And so, is there a print form?
Well, not yet. Actually, the whole project started with a print form, because with the Humboldt project, I made a book, which is basically my business card into the industry, because in the rest of the world, it's still such a delicate subject. So I really want to have something that I can show to the people, that I can work discreetly, and that I won't mention their names or the places they are if they don't want me to. And I made that so that if I travel in the rest of the world, I can give that, and then afterwards start photographing. Because in many places, I can't walk in with just a camera in my head and say, "Hi, I'm going to photograph you." They won't be happy about it. And the aim initially was to make this big, beautiful book of cannabis culture worldwide, because there isn't any yet. There is no actually printed version of what is happening in the world around cannabis culture. So that was our dream, and it is still our dream. But in the meanwhile, we kind of want to create a community around it, because I mean, I can work 10 years on this book and then publish it, and then everybody will be, where does this come from? So what we do now is create a community, start publishing the stories, and then hopefully within the upcoming, say, 5 years, we'll make also a book. And in order to do so, we need to go and search for funding too, because it's now very much a passion project based on print sales, but if we'll do the next travels, that will be difficult.
Yes. Now, how do you think photography is able to communicate these stories in ways that another medium may not be able to?
Well, much of the media around cannabis is still either in like the formal press, the same bush on every page when it's something about cannabis. It's very ignorant still in the possibilities, and very, maybe even careful about it, because they don't want to like put their hand on the block and say, it's good, it can change something. No, the formal press is still holding back to that. So I think people have the access to both Instagram, Facebook, all these different platforms. They have the possibility to do some research themselves. So if they find one of the stories they like and they look further into it, they might think, hey, this is actually pretty cool. And by portraying people, we're hoping to hold a mirror towards their faces. This is about human beings. This might as well been about you. And it's not about, what we see a lot, unfortunately, is that the image is still very much shown as being criminal, a drug dealer, a stoner, or a hippie. That's all. That's it.
Now, So it sounds like you do more than just a photo of a plant. You're actually showing photos of people's faces?
Yeah. Yeah.
And do they reach out to you or do you reach out to them? How does that happen?
Well, I started in California and Amsterdam because that is within my reach now. I know a lot of people, and usually what we do, we photograph, do an interview, and we place that. But we also ask these people to share their stories when we've published them, and we ask them, do you know any other stories? Because clearly, yeah, we can sit behind a computer and start searching for it, but we're not going to find it. We have to find it through the community that we're building up right now.
That sounds fantastic. Now, what's one of the most surprising stories you've uncovered along the way?
To me, what really made me want to make this project is a story in Sao Paulo in Brazil. I've lived in Brazil for a while, so when I was there for a different project, I had the chance to explore this subject a little bit already. And there I did the same. I started with my friends, guys. I'm searching people that are in some way involved in cannabis and are willing to talk to me, are willing to show me their houses, their plantations, their whatever interesting stuff that I can find. And they said to me, there's this one girl you should really meet. And her name was Clarion. She was 12 years old at the time that I met her. And she has Dravet syndrome, which is really one of the most heaviest forms of epilepsy. We went to visit her, and her mom started telling me her story. She was, up until the age of 10, in and out of hospitals all the time. She would sleep on her mom's hand because her mom could feel by the pressure of her hand whether she was choking or not. She could do nothing. She could only lay in bed. She had about, I think, 60, a ridiculous amount of seizures a day. And her mom has access to internet now, so she started Googling and found something out about cannabis oil. And she said, she went to her neurologist and she said, okay, we've had every type of medication to help my child. Nothing has helped so far. I'm searching on the internet and I find this, can we please try? And at first her doctor said, no, it's prohibited here. We're not going to do this. We don't want that. But luckily she had a curious doctor that came to the US actually to a convention about children with epilepsy. Came back, told her, okay, if you're willing to try it, I'm willing to import it under medical circumstances and we're going to do it as a trial. This was when she was 10 years old. The family was completely disrupted. Nobody slept anymore. Nobody could really go to work anymore. She had an older brother that, of course, didn't get any attention anymore. And they started doing medication. And when I was there, she was 12, so she was using it about 2 years. She could walk, she could talk, she could play, she could write her own name. Clearly, she wasn't as far as any other girl with a 12-year-old girl, and she will never get as far. But it was a major difference. And what people, I think, don't realize, it can make a difference to the person or the patient itself, but also to its surroundings, because they were a happy family again, which, I don't know, I spent the afternoon with them. I had goosebumps over my whole body. I was crying a couple of times because it was so beautiful to see. And that was the point where I realized, no, I have to make this project. We have to change everybody's view on cannabis, because it can do so much for us.
That sounds amazing.
Thank
well,
you.
So for people who are interested in reading these stories, where can they find them?
They're on our blog. It's called greengoldstories.com. They're editorials, separate portraits. We sell them as well to for publications. And of course, we have an Instagram and a Facebook and a Twitter, all Green Gold Stories.
And oh, your Instagram handle is Green Gold Stories?
Yes.
Okay, fantastic. Well, I look forward to checking it out.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you so much for your time today. I appreciate it.
Thank you so much for having me and letting me tell my story.
You're very welcome.